Zach Thor snorted, his tentacles rippling with barely contained mirth. These humans? The most dangerous species in the galaxy. He gestured toward a holographic image of Earth's inhabitants. They look like they'd struggle to open a jar of nutrient paste. The gathered HFY warriors erupted into a cacophony of clicks, chirps, and warbles, their form of laughter. Their massive forms, covered in iridescent scales and bony protrusions, shook with amusement. Their species, evolved to withstand brutal conditions, couldn't fathom how such soft-skinned beings could pose a threat. Commander Velzathra, a battle-hardened leader with more scars than scales, silenced them with a sharp hiss. Her compound eyes glittered dangerously as she spoke. "Laugh while you can, you overgrown larvae." Her mandibles clicked in annoyance. "I've seen what these soft-skins can do. Trust me, you won't be laughing when they're done with you." Of course, this only made the soldiers laugh harder. Zach Thor, still wiping a glob of mucus from his eye stalks, managed to wheeze out, "Come on, Commander, what are they going to do? Bore us to death with their short lifespans? Drown us in their water-based bodily fluids?" Velzathra's exoskeleton darkened, a sure sign of her growing irritation. "You think this is a joke? Let me tell you a story, you ignorant grubs. A story that'll make your egg sacs shrivel." The laughter died down, replaced by nervous clicks and curious chirps. Even Zach Thor quieted, sensing the shift in her tone. Velzathra's antennae twitched as she began her tale. "It was during the Battle of Nexus Prime. We thought we had those humans cornered, outnumbered, outgunned, trapped on a dying planet with no hope of escape." Velzathra's compound eyes scanned the now silent room. "We were wrong. Nexus Prime, 3 galactic standard cycles ago. Twin suns hung low on the horizon, bathing the battlefield in an eerie red glow. Smoke billowed from the ruins of what had once been a thriving human colony. Now it was little more than a wasteland of twisted metal. Back then, Velzathra was just a foot soldier, crouching behind the wreckage of a human transport vehicle. Her carapace was caked with dirt and gore, some hers, most belonging to the unfortunate souls who had crossed her path. We had them surrounded," she continued. "Their forces were diminished, their communications jammed. We were closing in on their central command when suddenly everything went dark. The HFY ships had been hovering in orbit, ready to rain fire down on the colony. But in an instant, all power was lost, communications cut, lights flickering before plunging into darkness. An EMP," she said, "but far more sophisticated than anything we had seen. The humans shut down our systems remotely, and we had no way of knowing how." The HFY warriors began to murmur, but Velzathra raised her claw, silencing them. And then, the real horror began as the ground forces moved in. Believing the humans to be defenseless, they were met with invisible drones, silent, deadly machines, cloaked by human technology. They struck without warning, disabling HFY armor, sabotaging their weapons, and infiltrating their ranks before the soldiers even realized they were under attack. "We thought we had cornered them," Velzathra growled. But they had set a trap. Their colony wasn't abandoned, it was an illusion. Their cloaking technology had masked their entire command center. Zach Thor's bravado had long since evaporated, his tentacles trembling slightly. "But how? How could they have known their tactics were unconventional?" Velzathra explained. "They didn't fight like us. They fought like they had nothing to lose. They sacrificed everything to ensure we couldn't gain ground." As Velzathra's forces advanced, confident in their victory, the human comms crackled to life. Their frequencies, once secure, were hijacked by a mocking voice. "You walked right into it, Bugs," it said. "Enjoy the show." The voice belonged to a human named Lieutenant Connor Harlan, whose thick southern accent grated on Velzathra's nerves. His casual drawl contrasted sharply with the chaos unfolding on the battlefield. "What happened next shook me to my core," Velzathra said. "We lost our HFY command post in a flash of fire. A human strike from orbit, a satellite we never detected, took it out in one blow. The humans had launched their assault from above, using stealth technology and coordinated drone attacks. The ground forces were blindsided, their defenses unraveling with each passing minute. All back," Velzathra had screamed into her comlink. But before the order could be executed, Lieutenant Harlan's voice echoed again, "Leaving already. And here I thought we were just getting started." Another explosion rocked the planet, and Velzathra watched in horror as her forces were cut down by unseen enemies. The humans weren't just using brute force. They were dismantling the cage Zari piece by piece, outthinking and outmaneuvering them. In a final, desperate attempt to hold the line, Velzathra ordered a regroup. But it was too late. The humans had unleashed their ultimate weapon, nanobots. Billions of microscopic machines infiltrated the cage Zari's armor, disabling weapons, shutting down life support systems, and even attacking their biological functions. It was as if the very air had turned against them. They didn't just beat us, Velzathra said, her voice tight. They made us realize how little we understood their capabilities. The remaining cage Zari forces, barely holding on, fled Nexus Prime. Velzathra herself had barely escaped, her exoskeleton scorched and her pride shattered. Back in the briefing room, the cage Zari soldiers were silent, the weight of Velzathra's story hanging heavy in the air. Even Krathel, her second in command, stood still, antennae twitching in contemplation. Zach Thor raised a trembling tentacle. But that was just one battle, right? A fluke. Velzathra's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile if it weren't so terrifying. Oh, my sweet summer larva, that was just the beginning. She began to pace the floor, her clawed feet clicking against the metal. You see, that battle taught us something crucial about humans. They are adaptable more so than any species we've ever faced. She activated a holographic display, showing various human advancements: prosthetic limbs, cybernetic enhancements, and gene therapy. They don't just adapt their environment. They adapt themselves. The soldiers watched in growing disbelief as the display cycled through images of humans conquering environments from the deepest oceans to the vacuum of space. And their technology, she continued, their ability to evolve not over millennia, but within lifetimes, makes them unlike anything we've ever seen. The young soldier Thalketh clicked nervously. But if they're so dangerous, why haven't they conquered the galaxy already? Velzathra's antennae twitched in amusement. They're too busy conquering themselves. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Velzathra clicked off the holographic display. Make no mistake, she said, her voice sharp, humans are dangerous not because they're stronger, faster, or tougher, but because they refuse to accept limitations. Krathel stepped forward, his compound eyes reflecting the dim light. Do you really think they're that dangerous? Commander. Velzathra fixed him with a glare. Let me tell you one last story, Krathel. One that's haunted me ever since Nexus Prime. It's not just their technology that makes them dangerous, it's their willingness to become the technology. The room darkened as Velzathra's voice dropped to a whisper. We've only seen the beginning of what they're capable of. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the faint hum of the ship's engines. Zach Thor hesitantly raised a tentacle. Commander, what's a beer? Velzathra sighed, her mandibles clicking in resignation. Trust me, soldier, you don't want to know. As the cage Zari soldiers filed out, their bravado replaced by nervous whispers and subdued clicks, Velzathra turned to Krathel. Well, she asked. Krathel's antennae twitched thoughtfully. I think they got the message, Commander. Velzathra nodded, staring out into the endless expanse of space. Good, because the humans, they're just getting started. The cage Zari battle cruiser Hive's Vengeance drifted silently in orbit over a barren planet. Its sleek, predatory form contrasted with the lifeless, rocky landscape below. Inside the command deck, Commander Velzathra stood motionless, her compound eyes fixed on the distant stars. The stars seemed colder, more indifferent since her defeat at Nexus Prime. Her claws flexed slightly as the memories replayed in her mind: the humans' trickery, their technological prowess, and worst of all, their willingness to adapt at any cost. We underestimated them once, she muttered, her mandibles clicking in frustration. That mistake won't be repeated. Behind her, Krathel, her second in command, entered the room quietly. His exoskeleton gleamed under the faint light, scarred from countless battles but still formidable. Commander, he said, his voice calm but edged with uncertainty. The crew is on edge. After the briefing, they're not quite themselves. Velzathra turned, her antennae twitching. Good. They should be nervous. Fear keeps soldiers alive. She paused, her tone softening. But we must temper that fear with strategy, or it will consume them. Krathel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. True, but there's something else. We've picked up an unusual signal. Velzathra's eyes narrowed. What kind of signal? Krathal led Velzathra to the communications bay, where several Cage Zari technicians hovered over their consoles, their claws tapping nervously. The room was bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent panels. A holographic display flickered in the center, showing a faint blip of energy, a signal, but distorted, irregular. It's not coming from the planet, Krathal explained. We're picking it up from deep space. It's too weak to be a distress signal, and we've ruled out natural causes. Velzathra studied the data. It was an odd pattern, one that didn't align with any known enemy or cosmic event. But something about it felt familiar. Humans, she hissed softly. Krathal's antennae twitched. We thought the humans had left this system. There's no sign of their ships. Their colonies on this planet were abandoned long ago. Velzathra's mind raced. No, they're still here. We've seen their tactics before. They cloak themselves, hide in plain sight, and strike when we least expect it. She stared at the holographic blip for a long moment, then made her decision. Prepare the fleet, she ordered. We'll investigate. But this time, we won't fall into their trap. Krathal hesitated. Commander, what if this is another ruse? Velzathra's mandibles clicked into a grim approximation of a smile. Then we'll show them we've learned. This time we set the trap. The Cage Zari fleet moved silently through the stars, their advanced stealth systems rendering them almost invisible to long-range sensors. The Hive's vengeance led the way, its massive form gliding effortlessly through the void. Behind it, a dozen smaller warships followed in formation, each bristling with weaponry designed to neutralize enemy fleets. As they neared the source of the signal, Velzathra stood on the bridge, watching the readings. The signal was stronger, now more distinct. It was unmistakably human in origin, but there was something different about it. It's not like their usual transmissions, one of the technicians reported. The frequency is erratic, fluctuating at intervals we haven't seen before. Velzathra's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Humans are unpredictable. Whatever they're doing, we'll be ready for it. The fleet reached a region of space cluttered with debris from ancient starships, relics of wars long forgotten. The signal was coming from deep within this graveyard of ships, a perfect hiding spot. Send in the drones, Velzathra ordered. Recon drones launched from the Hive's vengeance, small, agile, and cloaked from view. They weaved through the wreckage, scanning for signs of life, energy sources, anything that could give them a clue. Velzathra watched the data feed, her claws flexing in anticipation. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Every Cage Zari soldier on edge, waiting for the inevitable trap. Suddenly, one of the drones transmitted an image that made Velzathra freeze. On the screen was a human ship, but not like any ship the Cage Zari had encountered before. It was sleek, with no visible weapons, and its surface seemed to shimmer, as though it wasn't entirely solid. What is that? Krathal whispered, his antennae twitching nervously. Velzathra's eyes narrowed. Something new. The drone moved closer, scanning the ship's hull. As it did, a figure emerged from the shadows, a human, but different. The figure was tall, humanoid in shape, but its limbs were longer, more angular. Its skin gleamed with a faint metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed with a soft, unnatural light. It moved with an eerie fluidity, almost as if it wasn't bound by the same laws of physics as the Cage Zari. That's not just a human, Velzathra murmured. It's a hybrid. The nanotech-enhanced human turned, its gaze fixing on the drone. For a split second, the drone's feed flickered. Then, without warning, the human's arm shifted, transforming into a weapon that fired a concentrated beam of energy, destroying the drone in an instant. Velzathra clenched her claws. We're dealing with augmented soldiers. Krathal's mandibles clicked rapidly. If they've advanced this far, we may be facing something beyond what we anticipated. Velzathra turned to him, her compound eyes glinting. We knew this day would come. The humans are constantly evolving, adapting, but so are we. She issued new orders. Prepare the disruption fields. If they're using nanotech, we'll need to disable it, and increase the fleet's shields if they can hijack our systems again. We're finished. The Cage Zari ships advanced cautiously, weapons primed. But just as they closed in on the human vessel, the signal changed. They've activated something, one of the technicians warned. The signal spiking before Velzathra could react, the space around them erupted in a blinding flash of light. Energy pulses rippled through the fleet, disrupting their systems. The ship's lights flickered, and the hum of the engines faltered. EMP Velzathra shouted, "Activate countermeasures now." The crew scrambled to restore power, but the damage had already been done. Several smaller ships were dead in space, their systems completely fried. The Hive's vengeance struggled to maintain its stealth field. But then, from the wreckage, more hybrid humans emerged. They moved with inhuman speed, their bodies shifting and adapting as they advanced on the fleet. This was their plan all along, Krathel muttered. Velzathra's mandibles clicked in frustration. No more underestimating them. Focus all firepower on their ship. We take it out, or we die here. The caged Zari ships unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, targeting the human vessel. But the hybrid humans countered with advanced shielding technology, deflecting the blasts. Their ship retaliated, launching swarm drones that latched onto the caged Zari vessels, tearing through armor and systems with mechanical precision. On the bridge of the Hive's vengeance, Velzathra remained calm, even as alarms blared around her. "We've faced extinction before," she muttered. "We'll adapt." Her claws tapped a sequence on the console. Release the photon disruptors. The Hive's vengeance launched its final weapon, photon disruptor beams, designed to scramble nanotech systems. The beams struck the human ship, and for the first time its shields faltered. Now Velzathra shouted, "All ships, fire!" The combined might of the caged Zari fleet hammered the human vessel, tearing through its hull. The augmented soldiers on the surface tried to resist, but without their ship's protection they fell quickly. As the human vessel exploded in a brilliant flash, Velzathra watched in silence. The battle was won, but the victory felt hollow. "They're evolving faster than we anticipated," Krathel said quietly. Velzathra nodded. "This was just a scout ship. We've seen what they're capable of, and it's only the beginning." She turned to Krathel, her eyes burning with determination. "We need to prepare. This war is far from over." As the Hive's vengeance moved away from the wreckage, Velzathra couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Far away in a hidden human facility, Dr. Evelyn Carter watched the battle unfold through a series of holographic displays. Beside her, Lieutenant Connor Harlan leaned back in his chair, grinning. "Well, looks like the bugs figured it out," he drawled. Dr. Carter smirked. "It took them long enough. But this was just a test. Now we know how they react to augmentation." Behind them, Sergeant Jackson Graves, his cybernetic eyes glowing faintly, watched the screens with quiet intensity. "And what's the next step?" Dr. Carter's eyes gleamed with excitement. Now we escalate." The humans had only begun to scratch the surface of their potential, and soon the galaxy would know just how far they were willing to go. Velzathra stood at the bridge of the Hive's vengeance, staring into the stars. The humans had survived. They had evolved. But so would the caged Zari. One way or another, they would be ready. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says, we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.